What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
Guys, today we are breaking down the 3 keys to victory for Khamzat Chimaev as he takes on Dricus Du Plessis and tries to become the undisputed champion. Now, just a quick announcement for those of you that are going to be in the comments, and I see all of you that say, oh, you're biased, you think that Khamzat's going to win, you're not giving Dricus a chance. This is going to sound like a biased video because these are the 3 keys to victory for Khamzat. We are going to turn around in a couple days and do 3 keys to victory for Dricus. So stay tuned for those, but for now, we're going to get into how Khamzat wins this fight. So Nick, let's break this down because like this fight to me, I'm so excited to do this from both sides because I have so many things to say about how Khamzat wins and I have so many things to say about how Dricus wins.
Right.
But for Khamzat, a couple of things really stick out to me. One, he's working with Sam Calvita.
Right.
Khamzat has been known as a guy who just flat out does not respect his opponent, does not respect their game plan. He goes across the cage, he implements his will, and usually he gets it done in one.
Right.
And, you know, if it's not one, it's shortly thereafter. But he's a very quick start to finish. He does not like to get paid by the hour. He likes to get out of the cage as soon as possible. Now, why does that matter with Sam? Sam, to me, is one of the most brilliant minds in cardio strength and conditioning for fighters that the sport has ever seen.
I agree.
Sam, I have had the privilege of meeting him personally and talking to him about his methods and his lab and the way that he tries to increase VO2 max, increase physical output and stuff like that. You would not go to train with Sam Calvita unless you think that you have the very high likelihood of packing a lunch for an upcoming fight.
Right.
And this is a 5-round fight with Dricus. We know Dricus's cardio is superb. And he trains at high elevation, so he's going to come with everything he has as well. So key to victory number 1 for me, for Khamzat, pacing.
Yep.
This is probably not going to be over in the first 10 minutes.
Right.
Dricus starts to shine in the later half of the fight. There actually is a small chance that I think this fight could actually go to decision, which means that Khamzat's got to win the first 3 rounds because I think his likelihood of winning rounds 4 or 5 against Dricus are low.
Right.
So he's got to pace himself long enough to where he's doing enough output to win those early rounds, but he's not doing too much that he fades and loses round 3 or he gets 10-8'd in round 4 or 5 or worse, even gets finished.
Right.
So pacing to me is going to be a big key here for Khamzat.
That's a great first key. And I'm really interested to see what this Sam Calvita experiment with Khamzat is going to do for his cardio because that has been the issue. But here's my question on the cardio. So we know Khamzat Chimaev. He comes out and he gives it all he's got. And usually there's no gas left in the tank, but luckily the other opponent is either unconscious or the ref is pulling him off before we get to that point. But we have seen Khamzat gassed out in later parts of fights, even in 3-round fights. So he got with Sam Calvita because he obviously understands that even though him and Dricus might not like each other and they're building quite this feud between the two of them, there's clearly a respect there. He goes, all right, Dricus is clearly very good. My hole in my game is in my cardio. I go all out. But here's the question. Can you, in one training camp, change your cardiovascular system so much so? Now, you're with a mad scientist, so you probably have a better chance than anybody. But can you do it for a world title fight against a guy who lives at 6,000 elevation, is accustomed to this, and only seems to get better and more have more energy as the fight goes on? Or is Khamzat doing this for his VO2 max and for his cardiovascular system, so when he does do that initial push, it's even more intense and potentially lasts even longer? I don't know. I would assume if you know who Khamzat is and you're in his camp and you understand where his skills are and where his weaknesses are, that might be a better option than trying to get your gas tank ready for 25 full minutes and trying to go to a decision. Again, Khamzat's power comes into discussion when we talk about this fight because we've seen him crack really great fighters at 170, but it didn't exactly knock all of them out. Dricus Du Plessis gets cracked by everybody. We've seen him eat head kicks and all sorts of stuff. He usually doesn't even get phased. So I don't know if Khamzat Chimaev is going to be able to knock him out. And if he goes with the first part of the cardiovascular aspect where let's get your cardio so good you can go 45 minutes rather than 25. If he goes down that direction, then yes, I think he is going to have to look for a decision victory, winning 3 rounds or more. If he goes with the approach of I'm going to become an even better sprinter, right? I'm going to put even more premium gas in the car, but I'm still going to floor it, pedal to the metal. And it's only, instead of lasting me 10 minutes, it's going to last me 12 and a half or 15, but that's all I need to get through Dricus. Those are the 2 aspects that I don't know enough about. Like, of course, depending on what you're trying to improve on, your workout and your routine would be better. But I think that Sam Calvita and Khamzat are keeping that stuff close to the vest. Like, are they working more sprint-specific stuff? So when he does go out there and not touch gloves with DDP, but goes out there and starts to fight, he goes immediately for those takedowns, and he has an extra 5 or 7 minutes left to scramble and move like that. Or is he going, you know what, I'm going to need to pack a lunch too. I'm going to need to try to fight smart, maybe not just rush across the cage, but, ease things out into the first couple of rounds. It's very hard to say. I don't think he needs to waste very much time early on. I think he needs to go ahead and start putting points on the board by winning rounds early. If not, I think the later rounds get very difficult for him. But yeah, I think Khamzat is in the right hands, fixing the problem that he had the biggest issue with, which was his cardio.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good question about whether or not this is something that he's working on to extend the period for which he can sprint. I don't think that's a good idea because, like, if he can sprint, let's say he can sprint for 7 minutes. He can go all out for 7 minutes, and working with Sam and building up his cardio, he can go all out for 10 or for 12. We're talking about a 25-minute fight against a guy who's extremely difficult to put out.
Right.
And, okay, you go 12 minutes hard against Dricus, but then you're really gassed. Then you really have a problem on your hands for the last 2 or 3 rounds. So I think that the pacing, and I think these guys are smart enough to know that there's going to be moments of burst. You have to do that. It's like a high intensity interval sort of thing. You can't, nobody can just sprint, straight through for 25 minutes. There's going to be moments of burst. How well does he conserve his energy to use those bursts when he needs them? How efficient is he with those bursts? And how much does he have in the tank, and how many times can he repeat that process?
Right.
Big thing for Khamzat, which kind of brings me to my second key to victory for Khamzat. Before I get into key number 2 for Khamzat Chimaev, one thing we noticed is that most of you who watch our content are actually not subscribed to the channel.
What's up with that?
We are on a mission, guys, to get to 15,000 followers, and we're less than 2,000 away. Help us out along the journey. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button. It means the world to us. Now back to the conversation.
Thank you.
And that is, he cannot let DDP go first in the striking.
Yeah.
DDP is a really awkward striker, but he's very powerful, and awkward is the term that people like to use because it looks optically like something that we're not used to seeing, and it is.
Right.
But awkward could easily be replaced for effective.
Yeah.
Because what DDP does is dang effective.
Yep.
He knocks people out. He hurts people. He wins fights with his hands. Even against a volume striker like a Sean Strickland, he's able to edge out and get a decision victory, talking back to that first fight. So one thing that Khamzat needs to do is not find himself watching what DDP is doing on the feet, because he's going to come at you and burst. It's going to be very unpredictable. The angles are going to be weird. The timing is going to be weird. How do you disrupt somebody who's got awkward timing? You use timing of your own.
Right.
You come out, you put a jab in his face, you put a 1-2 in his face, throw a leg kick, throw a body kick. That way you can kind of disrupt the entries of the awkward fighter, which makes it harder for them to start to mount their offense against you.
Right.
So I think it's very important for Khamzat to go first in the striking. Don't get caught looking and watching what DDP's doing, because that's how you're going to get cracked, and you might get cracked with a big shot. I mean, this is going to be the heaviest hitter that Khamzat has ever faced.
For sure.
He can't take too many massive shots from DDP, nor could anybody.
No, and he also got dropped by Gilbert Burns.
Yeah.
And when Gilbert Burns hits like a truck, no doubt about it, but DDP hits even harder than that. So I'm very interested to see how Khamzat does deal with that. And the strikes that DDP likes to throw, they throw everybody for a loop. They're confusing for everybody. So it's very important that Khamzat Chimaev, like you said, doesn't let DDP get into his rhythm, because even though he's like this drunken master, kind of stumble and fall and land on top and stumble and fall, but land a hook on the way down, he's the kind of guy that, yes, it might not look like the prettiest thing, but it, like you said, it's the most effective strike he can throw at that moment. And it's always the strikes that you don't see coming that do the most damage. And DDP is just that guy where I might sound crazy saying this, because we were talking about MVP last time he was fighting. It's so hard to find somebody that moves like MVP. That's true. But you can go to a karate school or whatever, taekwondo school, kung fu, and probably find some people that hop around pretty similar. I don't know of anybody that moves similar to Dricus Du Plessis. You know, when he's throwing a 1-2, it looks like you could push him with 2 fingers over towards his jab hand, because all of his weight is so lopsided and his feet look like they're on a balancing beam, right? We always say, like, you know, you want to keep your feet on the train tracks.
Yeah.
That keeps your balance, keeps you more based. Dricus's feet will wind up, you know, toe to heel. He's right there, but of course he's still able to find a shot. So I don't know if Khamzat is going to be able to find those same looks off anybody, even if you have somebody trying to emulate Dricus's style, because it's not coming from Dricus's mind. And even though it's an ugly style, it's a creative style. He throws things very interestingly, and the way he's able to land on the target, even though it looks like every shot he's about to throw is going to miss. Go back to the Derek Brunson fight. He was throwing so many random punches, but it was like there was a magnet in his glove and in Derek Brunson's face. Everything he threw just happened to land. And the technique was off. He was heavy over his lead leg. He looked like he was almost lunging forward at times, but everything was landing. So those type of situations are what Khamzat has to watch out for most. You don't want to go get into just a stand-up firefight with DDP. If that happens, then all of the techniques that you're familiar with blocking and defending and countering off of, those go out the window, and you have to basically watch and keep your eyes on DDP, because you don't know what's going to come, but something dangerous and something heavy is going to come your way. So I think Khamzat Chimaev, if he wants to strike with DDP in this fight and not just try to get it straight to the ground, what he needs to do is be the one that closes that distance into either boxing range or a long kickboxing range. If he can get into that boxing range, he should try to stay real clean and buttoned up with some crisp boxing and get in and out as quick as you can without DDP finding anything. Because DDP works best in those moments of chaos, when he gets to do a little burst, or maybe he cuts an angle, moves laterally, or when you decide you want to come in and now he's throwing some random thing sideways at you and it's landing fully. So I think that's a very interesting part. Khamzat Chimaev knows how to intelligently defend himself, but it's a matter of, will you see these shots coming? And if you do you get out of the way in time?
Yeah, no doubt. And the final key to me to victory for Khamzat Chimaev is very simple: to stick to the game plan.
Yeah.
Right? Because we think back to, we talked about this before we started recording, Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder.
Yes.
When Deontay Wilder changed camps for the second fight and fired his coach and accused his coach of spiking his water bottle, like that whole, that was a weird saga, by the way. Yeah. But, you know, I think the analogy pertains here, because Tyson Fury said something that was so true. And in the moment it felt true. And then we saw it to be exactly the case. He said, I don't care who he switched camps to. I don't care what he's doing differently. I don't care what mindset stuff he's into right now. As soon as I land a big shot on him, he's going to revert back to the old Deontay Wilder, and I'm going to take advantage of him just like I did the first fight.
Yes.
Why does that pertain here? Khamzat is with a new coach. He's with Sam Calvita. He's amassed an excellent team down in Southern California for this camp. I'm getting word that he's wrestling with some of the best wrestlers that the planet has walking around.
Yeah, big ones too.
Big guys, some of the best strikers. He's got, obviously, we touched on in the beginning of the video, phenomenal strength and conditioning program going on.
Arman Sarukian's with him.
Arman's there.
Ilya Taporia hangs with him a lot. They were cornering and things together.
Exactly. So he's got a lot of good things going for him. But when you get in the cage with somebody who's as awkward and difficult to deal with as Dricus, it's easy to have a moment of adversity and say, screw this, I'm going back to the old Khamzat.
Right.
I'm going to throw a 1-2 and shoot a blast double until I get this guy down. One, you can find yourself getting knocked out in that process. Two, you can find yourself getting gassed out if you don't get knocked out. So he's got to, whatever game plan his team has amassed for this fight, I can all but assure you that it's a good one, because I know who the players are in this scenario. They're very, very skilled, training partners, coaches, mentors that are being involved in this camp for Khamzat.
Tip of the spear.
So he needs to make sure that he doesn't get flustered in the octagon. This is the biggest moment of his career against the most difficult opponent that he's ever faced. He's main eventing a pay-per-view, and a lot of people are going to be watching, and quite a lot of those people are going to be hoping to see him get his jets cooled by DDP. So there's a lot of pressure on Khamzat's shoulders here. He needs to feel it. You don't want to pretend it doesn't exist. Feel it. Address the grandiose of the moment. But when you get in that cage with DDP, stick to the game plan that you have, because I don't know what it is, but I guarantee you with the people that are around him and just looking at the pieces on the chessboard, there's a good plan in place.
Yes.
Is it enough to beat DDP? I don't know. But it's certainly enough to provide a real formidable opponent for the champion. Probably the most difficult to date. And I think he needs to make sure that he stays locked in, laser focused. He has been a guy at times who gets a little bit in his head with the screaming and it's intense, but against a guy like DDP, that's not going to bother him. That's not going to scare him. And he will find places to take advantage of that if you let him.
I agree. Yeah, DDP is the first guy that Khamzat has been booked to fight where we don't feel some sort of fear out of the opponent, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's afraid of anybody in the UFC, but Dricus is like, no, I laugh at this guy. This guy's not on my level. And that's an approach to a Khamzat fight that we have not seen yet. And I agree with you totally that he does need to stick to the game plan, whatever that may be. If you can stick to the game plan, I assume that the minds that you've got together have devised one good enough to become world champion, but you do have to stick to it. And again, like you're saying, what will it be? Will he shoot across the cage bright and early, like the very first seconds, like he always does? Or will he show a little bit more respect and be a little bit more calculated when he does decide to shoot in? We don't know, but I'm excited to see if this gas tank plays a role in the early parts of the fight, or if he decided I'm going to need all 25 minutes of this fight. But this one, I keep saying it, I could not be more excited for this fight. And I have a feeling, I'm not going to jinx it here, knock on wood, this fight is going to live up to the hype and then some that we're expecting.